So, the new season's been out for long enough that we have had enough time to really see the statistics of what the best heroes are in the game right now, and who you should probably be playing if you want to win a lot of games. But with that as well, we've had quite a few heroes that have been called by many players to be quote-unquote OP, but maybe don't actually fit the best hero role. What are those heroes, and what heroes really are the best? Well, today I want to go over that and talk to you guys about the best heroes in this new season, and as well, some of the heroes that are called OP, but maybe aren't quite that in every scenario. With that all said though, guys, let's get started. So, the first pick I wanted to cover was Erisa, and Erisa's very weird because, technically speaking, she has one of the highest win rates in the entire game, a decent play rate, so it's not really skewed in that way, and overall good damage, good defense, good everything. But most players, I'm going to say, don't really think Erisa is OP. I think most players are, happy when they have an Erisa on their game and on their team, but, they don't complain about it way too much. But I think you might want to keep in mind is that right now, Erisa is the #1 tank in the game at almost every single rank, even beating out D.Va, who's honestly been doing amazing. And I think the reason for that is because she's just so sturdy in her entire kit and in everything. And of course, I guess you could say she is a sturdy type of character because she's a horse, she has her fortify, she has everything. But as far as her actual gameplay as well, she has a very hard to crack kit. She has the shield that is hard to play around. Either your whole team focuses on it and wastes all their time, or they ignore it and you get, you just help your team out because they have a shield to play behind it. She has a crowd control ability that can stop engages, that can push people together, that can get nice, combos off of that. She has a good amount of damage, maybe not the best, but a good amount. That's also really far range. And of course, the shield can also go far range, which is kind of nice. And I think overall, Erisa is just a character that maybe isn't the most flashy in really anything. You watch an Erisa player and you've seen all of them, but she is very good at a lot of things, and I think that's especially important in competitive, because when you're playing in esports, Erisa I think does lose a bit of power, because sure, she is very reliable, but sometimes it might be better to have some of that damage from Reinhardt, from like King's Row, or maybe 2 off tanks playing together. But in a competitive game, when you just need something that your teammates can hide behind, that they can play around, Erisa really is that anchor tank that can do all of that. And even if you don't have a great team comp, like let's say you have a dive comp, Erisa is, of course, not the best pick for that. But at least what you can do with this character is send in a shield from far range, start pounding out the opponents, getting some damage there, pulling them all together so that your Winston can zap him, so that your Genji can slash him with his ultimate. And while it isn't the best, as you can see, it still kind of works. And again, that's why I think she's so good. And maybe, of course, you could say her damage is a bit too high, her shield lasts a bit too long, it's too easy to come up. All those together, but in the end, Erisa is one of the best characters in the game right now, and I think most people just aren't really talking about her. So, I believe that Mora had the most hype of any character coming into Season 9. When we first got into this new season, Mercy nerfs were out, and it seems like the only good main healer left was Mora. And at the very beginning of the season, yeah, I think she was very good. Probably the only support you should be playing in every single game. But since then, people have kind of figured out how to play around her, how to kind of beat quad tank, and how to not need a Mora on your team. And while she is still a very important pick, I don't think that she's the must-pick OP type of character that she was at the beginning of the season. But still, I think she is one of the best supports. The thing about Mora is that even though you can't always get a good quad tank combo going with her, or even though you can't get really just everything that you want, and even if your team's really split up, she still does supply a huge amount of single target healing. She still does a half-decent amount of damage, and her ultimate still comes up insanely fast. And when you throw out that orb, and you go for your ultimate, that together, it's just such a good combo in solo queue, because giving out consistent healing to your team all the time while dealing damage, that's all you could really ask for as a support. And I think those put together is kind of a reason why she's always been a good support, and she's always been a character that you wanted to pick ever since the release. And I think one problem about her being OP, I guess, is that a lot of people suspected that since the Mercy nerfs were going through, that that would make Mercy completely useless. That hasn't really happened. Mercy's actually been played a decent amount, probably like a 51% win rate, doing pretty well actually. Worse than Mora obviously, but still pretty well. And I think that is one of the reasons why Mora isn't seen as a really overpowered pick, because Mercy still is in the game and still can be that other main healer that you want to go for. And one weird thing that I actually found out is that the lower elo you go, the better Mora gets. She can go to like the 3rd best character in the game, but when you start to go up a little bit into higher elo, she'll move down to like the 5th spot, and then Mercy will move up quite a bit. Which I would have thought it was the opposite, because of course I know that Mora isn't way too hard to play, but I was thinking, hey, Mercy probably a little easier than Mora, but obviously that's not the case. Obviously it is hard to pull off Mercy, and probably even harder than to pull off Mora. But, I mean, both of them still are good picks, and honestly, if you want to play good support, I think Mora is probably the better pick for yourself. I think that the ability to deal damage as this character, finish off picks, is important when you're trying to play solo queue compared to playing Mercy, and that's why I'd honestly recommend playing Mora over Mercy. Now, of course, one thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to make sure not to be very greedy with this character, not to throw only damage orbs, not to do the very basic mistakes as Mora, because still, a lot of people do that, and if you are going for all those basic mistakes, yeah, as a Mora player, you aren't going to be that useful, and I think that's why sometimes at lower ranks she has, I guess, easier times, because, I don't know, maybe people are less greedy with her or something like that. But in general, I'm going to say again, yeah, I would recommend playing Mora, but she's not really the overpowered pick that a lot of people believe that she was going to be this season. And finally, we have Sombra, and she's such a weird pick, honestly, because if you look at the best players in the game, the esports players, the top 500 players, all of them, they are complaining all the time about this character. But when you go into lower elos, people still complain quite often, they're still annoyed, but she doesn't seem nearly as strong, and that's not just the way people feel, that's the way the stats work. Sombra is in such a weird state right now because when you look at the lowest elo in the game, Bronze, she is the worst character in the game with like a 41% win rate, just as bad as she's always been. But if you go to the highest elo, you know, Grandmaster top 500, well, she's one of the best DPS in the game. I think in the top 2 or top 3 DPS. And that's just so weird to deal with because that's very unique. And I think that's kind of why a lot of people have a very skewed perception about Sombra, because as you get to a higher rank, she becomes better as a character. I think Sombra is what she's always been, a very good team player that needs her team to play around her, that needs control, that needs people that kind of know what they're doing. And if you don't have all that, well, Sombra's regular DPS won't really make up for, you know, other people's DPS. She really can't do that type of role. And I think that's, again, why she's so good in higher ranks, because as Sombra, you can shut down a Winston. As Sombra, you can shut down a Diva. As Sombra, you can shut down a lot of other problem characters. But in lower ranks, oftentimes you'll shut them down, and people just won't go in. They'll just wait until your hack's done, and, you know, it's completely worthless. At lower ranks, you can't get off enough damage to get off your quick ults. At lower ranks, I think Sombra just really still kind of has a problem playing. I think it is easier than before, but people don't really understand how to play around Sombra. But again, I'm going to say she is kind of overpowered in high ranks because when you look at it, she has ridiculous amounts of fun just wrecking games in scrims. As Sombra, if you are playing well, you can just stop and engage, stop and disengage, stop defensive play, completely wreck every single tank in the game and make them almost completely useless. Sombra can do so much. She can get picks, she can have mobility, she can give extra health with, of course, the packs that she can hack. It's great, honestly, in high rank, and not as great in low rank. And that's, again, I think the main thing to think about Sombra when you're deciding to play her or not. She is one of the best characters in the game, and I'd probably even say, if you are in the top ranks right now, she is a overpowered character that does too much, and people can really abuse her way too easily. But at lower ranks, yeah, she's not quite that overpowered. In a lot of cases, people could probably say that she's still kind of bad. Which is weird because, again, the character's not bad, just how people are playing the character is bad. But overall, again, I'm going to say that, yeah, if you are a good player, I'd probably pick up Sombra. I think she is very good, and other than Tracer, I think she's probably going to be one of the best characters to climb with, and especially if you use team chat a lot, and if you make a lot of callouts, and if you're going to be good with your ultimate, Sombra is going to be, in this season, one of the best heroes by far to climb with, especially if they're playing quad tank with Mora, because you counteract all those tanks. Yeah, that's going to be a fun time. But otherwise, if you're in lower ranks, maybe you should stay with Genji, Tracer, and those other DPS like you normally would. But anyways, that's all I'm going to say about this new season. So far in competitive, it's been kind of weird because it has changed up a decent amount. You know, we had Diva, we had Junkrat, we had all those other characters as the best characters at the very beginning of the season, and that's why I wanted to make this list because, yeah, the meta has changed quite a bit, so I think it definitely was worth talking about. But as well, I think you can see how it is a weird meta to talk about because it's very varied depending on rank this season, which of course does happen to some extent every single season, but especially with last season with the Erisa, Junkrat, and Mercy, you know, meta comp, that was pretty much the best in every rank. But again, in this season, it's kind of different, so there you go with that. Anyways, I'd like to hear you guys' own opinions in the comment section down below. Do you think these heroes are very good, or do you think that they're just kind of average and maybe some people are kind of blowing them out of the water? I'd really like to know. Or if you feel like I missed a certain hero that you think is actually the best hero this season, please make sure to leave that down there as well. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button for future videos like this. And as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.